will call to order the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee meeting. Today is March 25th, 2024 at 5:30. So first we'll start out by taking roll.
Benayak, Johnson,
Here.
Egal, Yang,
Present.
Hayes,
Present.
Pichler, Kanowski.
Here.
Next, we will do the land acknowledgement. Sorry, I didn't take a volunteer before, but Maria. Oh, you
can
are.
do it.
Thank
Yep.
you.
We are gathered here on the lands that we were originally home to the Menominee and Ho-Chunk nations. We honor the Menominee and the Ho-Chunk communities and are grateful for their stewardship of the land and waters. We acknowledge these ancestral grounds as a sacred and remember the complex history of settler colonialism on these lands and the effects that persist today. We commit to a restorative and healing relationship of the original inhabitants in our community.
Thank you. And next, the mission statement. We'll do that. Thank you.
The mission of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion DEI Committee is to create a more welcoming, connected, and equitable Oshkosh by consciously including the richness and complexities of marginalized voices in its planning and function.
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the February 26th meeting. I would take a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? No discussion. We'll take a vote on approval.
Johnson,
Yes.
Yang,
Aye.
Hayes,
Aye.
Kanowski.
Aye.
Thank you. And next we have up citizen statements to the committee. I don't think that we have any scheduled for today.
I don't have anything registered.
Okay. And then public comment on the agenda,
I don't believe so.
and those that would be commenting on an agenda item.
Correct.
So next we will hear from the city about the City of Oshkosh Housing Study implementation update.
Where would you like?
Where do you prefer?
Just pick a microphone at the table.
Fair enough.
We're kind of
We're
around the
very,
table people.
yeah, it's not very formal. It's discussion.
This works for me.
Lemonade.
No, they're not on. Or this one's not on.
The lights
Oh,
burnt out.
the lights are burnt out?
Yep.
Oh, yeah, that one's
We'll have to
actually
talk
on.
to
I've
Medium
asked that question
Services.
before, yes.
So just quick introduction. My name is Mark Lyons. I'm the Planning Services Manager for the City of Oshkosh. I also deal with our Planning Commission, all of our land use stuff, but also a lot of our housing and some of the things we're trying to do to improve housing in the City of Oshkosh. I have a really long PowerPoint with a lot of stuff that we're working on housing. I'm going to try to get through it relatively quickly so we have some time for some questions. But housing implementation, the city adopted a housing study in 2022. So ever since that time, we've started working on ways we can implement and encourage housing throughout all segments of our housing within the city. What's that? Postpone.
Postpone,
That was great timing. So just brief agenda of what I'm going to talk about. These are some of the elements that we're going to hit on today. Like I said, I'm trying to go at least somewhat quickly. Big thing we always look at in our housing studies, our first thing is looking at kind of that continuum of housing. And we want to make sure when we're doing our housing study implementation, we understand housing means a lot of different things to different people in the community. So we want to make sure we always have that in the back of our mind, that we are hitting different segments of our housing needs as we work on various projects and making sure we don't focus our efforts just in one area, that we deal with all aspects of housing, everywhere from homelessness to the high-end market rate stuff. In 2022, one of the main slides we'd like to show as part of our housing study is this slide. What this is looking at income ranges of the residents within the city of Oshkosh, looking at the number of units that would fall within their both rental and owner-occupied range, and then how that actually compares to the housing stock that is currently within the city. Now, this is as of 2022, but you can see on our very low income side of things, we're deficient by almost 3,000 units. Then we have actually a relatively large surplus in that $25,000 to $75,000 range, and that's because we have obviously a lot of older housing stock in the city. That falls kind of into those categories. And as you see as you move into that upper end of market rate into the high end, again, now we have a large deficiency. So what that shows is we have a very squished housing market in the city. And that kind of reemphasizes that fact that we have needs up and down the spectrum of housing needs, because right now our market is really compressed into one small segment. We got to find ways to kind of spread that out, so we're providing housing for all styles. So kind of what were some of the early things we did in the housing study? First step we did is we went in and we looked at our zoning code. What were some things we could do to improve our zoning requirements to create additional opportunities for housing? So we looked at reducing parking standards to make it easier to do multifamily housing. We reduced the minimum lot size, so lots can be made smaller now. You're getting more units per acre with smaller lot sizes. And then we also went in and we made a lot of housing styles that weren't allowed into permitted by right uses. Those things like allowing ADUs throughout the city, allowing duplexes where duplexes weren't previously allowed. So we started doing some of those things to kind of make it easier to build housing in the city. We also then took a quick look at our housing programs. We operate a number of housing programs in the city. We wanted to look at, okay, what are the effectiveness of those programs? After this study, we actually eliminated a couple of them. They were just being underutilized, and let's not put money into things that aren't being utilized. Let's put the money into things that are having an impact on our community. We also increased the amount. We know as construction costs and housing costs went up, having things at $25,000 or $30,000 wasn't having the same effect as they were in 2016 or 2017 when those programs were started. We need to offer more money per. So ultimately, we got to a point where we're more money, less overall loans we're able to make out, but hopefully having a greater impact per project. We began a process that actually kicks off later this week of an infill housing design book. One thing we know when people are building infill housing, there can be difficult envisioning what can be built on an infill lot and how you fit into an infill lot.
What's an infill lot?
So infill lot would be an existing lot in the urban core of the city, our existing neighborhoods that maybe there was an older dilapidated home that the city came in and took down. Now that vacant lot sits there, and doing infill housing, building within an existing area can be difficult and it can be costly. One of the challenges with that, and we get into that more in here, is new construction costs are so much higher than the value of homes in that neighborhood. It's hard to put a home in that neighborhood that pencils out and a bank will finance because of just current construction costs. Well, one of the things we're looking at doing with Housing Design Book is we put out an RFP and we hired a company that's going to come in and help design homes that are appropriate for the area, but also make sure they're scaled appropriate for the area, trying to make sure that they fit and the cost of building them is a reasonable rate where they can go in that. And then also the city will own the plans physically. So instead of somebody going out and having to hire an architect and pay them to develop a plan, we can say, here's a pre-approved house, have it. If you want to take it to an architect, have them tweak it, you can, but at least it's a starting point where we've reduced that entry cost and just said, here you go, here's a house, we're going to do single story, we're going to do a duplex, we're going to do a story and a half, a couple of different options so we can help show people here are some houses, and if you want to just take them and use them, you can. If not, we'll give you some other options. Other thing we do, we really have upped our collaboration with community-based development organizations, NeighborWorks and Habitat, trying to find more ways to help facilitate housing through those organizations. Just real quick, if you're not familiar with some of our housing programs, I wanted to touch on a couple of them real briefly. The first is we do have some deferred payment stuff through HUD, our Housing and Urban Initiative, where our block grant program helps with upkeep, maintenance, and in certain cases, upgrading homes. So every year we, as an entitled community, we get a certain amount of money from HUD through the block grant program that we then give out as 0% loans through the community to people that need to improve their homes. Just a quick example of one home that was done through that program. You can see they kind of had a complete facelift of the home. They also did some mechanicals inside as part of this project. Some of the other, we also then have what we call our Healthy Neighborhoods initiatives. Those are other funds the city has that are separate from our block grant funds that we operate a number of programs out of. One of those is our Sold on Oshkosh. It's probably our most popular program we operate in the city, which is down payment assistance. So LMI individuals who are looking to get into home ownership, we help try to lower that initial cost on them by providing some down payment assistance. We also do, similar to that block grant program, we do another owner-occupied program within the city where we help, again, 15-year loans. This is one that we increased from $30,000 to $15,000 as part of that housing study implementation, understanding that the costs to rehab have gone up. So these are intended for owner-occupied. Someone is owning a home, maybe their roof is starting to leak, or the mechanicals inside are starting to fail, or their windows have become so energy efficient that they're losing cost there. These programs are there to help those individuals be able to make improvements to their home without having that, go out and get a home equity loan or something like that. And then finally, this one goes back to our infill properties. The city started what we're calling new homes in your neighborhood. We know the cost of infill development can be very expensive. There's some inherent costs when you're an infill over greenfield development. So the city started a program where we give up to $25,000 to help offset some of those costs for infill housing in the city, knowing that it's important for those neighborhoods to have that reinvestment. So we want to do everything we can to help facilitate it. Then moving on a little bit to what is affordable housing, what is affordability in Oshkosh. We wanted to take a little bit, affordable housing can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So we try to start to break down what are some of those ranges that we're talking about when we say affordable in workforce. So Winnebago median income is about $95,000. The kind of market rate is usually considered 120% of median housing income or higher. Middle income is considered roughly 80 to 120. Low income below 80, very low 50, and then extremely low 30 and below. So just trying to give you a little bit of context of what are some of those terms that are typically kind of floating out there. Digging in a little more for Oshkosh, what does that mean for our MSA? So when you look through HUD and some of the federal guidelines, the way they group things is we're considered the Oshkosh-Neenah MSA. They look at us kind of together, not just the city of Oshkosh. But when you look at what those income limits, what does that translate to? So for a family of four, the very low or 50% income, could be up to $45,000 a year. Extremely low, you're only looking at about $37,000 a year annual income for that family of four. And then that 80%, that kind of low income, is about $72,000 per year for income for those families. Trying to translate then that into what does that look like for when people are trying to get into housing? So for an 80% median income family of four in the city, that would be, say, a purchase price of a home of about $240,000. That would be the equivalent of that income. 100% of median income, you can see, is about $281,000. And then that 120%, or you're getting to more of that upper end, would be a price of about $350,000. So just trying to help, compare that to what our home prices, in the city is compared to those numbers. Do you have a question?
No.
Oh,
Somebody.
Sorry, come on in.
So one of the things we're looking at Oshkosh is workforce housing. Workforce housing is usually about 80 to 120 range of median income. And in the last several years with COVID and some of the other things that have gone on, our affordability index in the city of Oshkosh has dropped about 7%. So houses are 7% less affordable now than they were previously. So that issue of affordability in workforce housing is only getting worse in our community, like most communities, which is why the city is starting to look at, okay, how do we become more involved in housing? What can we do to start to offset some of that affordability and workforce issues? Looking in then a little more locally, this is now looking at exactly city of Oshkosh. Our household median income for the city of Oshkosh is about $55,000. Why does that keep popping up?
Do it now, it's saying.
I only have 2 more opportunities.
We don't know what happens when you get to the last one, right?
Now it's a Saw movie. Okay.
So generally, housing prices, as a general ratio, you usually look at about 2.5 times someone's median income. That's about the most you would hope people spend on housing. So that translates into a $135,000 home. You can't build affordability. It just isn't the case. Under current market conditions, if somebody was going to try to build a new affordable home for someone that was in the Oshkosh median income, at current prices, which are about $225 a square foot to build new, that's a 604 square foot home. That is a very obviously small house, kind of below market. Now we know there are some trends moving in terms of smaller homes. 406 is smaller than the more reasonable smaller home sizes that most people are trying to get into. So it just kind of further perpetuates the fact that we know these housing issues are just compounding further and further. And then you look at, okay, what are things selling for and being built in Oshkosh right now, and kind of the open market, the market rate houses, 433, 429, 440. Homes selling right now on kind of the open development market are obviously much higher than what the median income can support. Just building on knowing that we have these issues that are just building in the city. So, what are we going to try to do? First is the infill housing. We talked about that New Homes in Your Neighborhood program and our housing design book. We're trying to find ways to lower the initial cost of building on infill houses. That goes along with in looking at some of those zoning requirements that we changed, allowing smaller lots, easier to do duplexes. Trying to really focus on are the ways we can do infill housing and lower the cost of infill housing. Examples of some of the homes that, since we've really upped this program, right now on 2332 Jefferson Street, a builder is building a home under that New Homes in Your Neighborhood program. They bought this lot from the RDA for a low price. Now they're going in, they're building that kind of two-stall garage, moderate priced home that kind of fits within the neighborhood. On Wisconsin Street, we have a builder that is building a home in that neighborhood. Now that neighborhood's mainly 2 stories, so you can see kind of concept design of what they're doing. What's great about this project is that lower right-hand picture in the corner is the garage. They're building the ADU right away as part of the house. So they're building the home and the ADU, again, trying to kind of up that density, create more options for housing in the city. This builder actually has 2 other RDA lots in the city that they're hoping to build the same house on, or at least very similar. Again, looking at doing the ADU immediately upon construction of the house. One thing we know with ADUs, and does everyone know what an ADU is? No. Okay, sorry. Accessory dwelling unit. It's putting that unit above a garage or an additional unit in your basement, or creating another separate dwelling unit within the housing footprint. We know building them on the front end is about the only cost-effective way to do them. As we've been researching in our community and throughout the state, a lot of cities have went to allowing ADUs, but only in a retrofit character, where you're trying to put one in above an existing detached garage. Well, unfortunately, some of the codes that the state has makes that very hard and very costly to do, which is why we're trying to encourage developers like this builder to, hey, if you do it on the front end, you can use the laterals for your water line and your sewer line and run it all on the front end. You can put in your frost-free protection that you need to, and you can lower that cost and make it more reasonable if you do it on the front end. Even if they choose not to rent out the ADU, at least it's there, it's set up, and it's ready, where if you tried to come back and do that in 2 or 3 years, the cost would be 2 or 3 times higher to achieve that same ADU. So if you put the bones and the infrastructure in now, at least it becomes an option. And then here's one on Merritt Street. This is over by the YMCA. We're working with NeighborWorks out of Green Bay, who's looking to come in and build a duplex on that lot. It's a smaller corner lot. RDA owned it for a long time, couldn't find anyone who was interested in building on it. So they're going to come in and build a new concept for them and try to get a owner-occupied ADU built and sold on that lot. Again, this is one that wouldn't have been permitted prior to the code changes that we did. And then just talking more about housing in general, I want to quickly go through some of the projects that have been approved in recent years and how they hit different markets, and then some of the new stuff we're about to try. So top right is Merge. That is a market rate residential apartment development that's right on the river here. Max and Corners, the building is largely open and starting to occupy now. Just below that is the Boatworks site. So it's on the south side of the river by Ohio Street. That developer got approved to build workforce apartments. They're looking at about 62 units of total apartment buildings or apartment units they're looking at building on those 2 sites. I'm sure many of you may be familiar with this is the Terrence Wall development in the Sawdust District, adding about 300 units of market rate apartments along with commercial space along South Main Street as part of the Sawdust District. Another building on the south side, this is the old Miles Kimball building on South Main Street. That was an industrial building. A developer is presently in the process of going in and putting apartments into that building and making improvements to that building. Then looking at kind of the other end, those were some more higher market rate, some workforce. Now we have a LIHTC project, low income tax credit project on between Jefferson and North Main Street. This is property that the RDA has owned for quite a while. Last year they put out an RFP. Commonwealth Development out of the Fond du Lac market came in and proposed this project. It is a combination of apartments, townhomes, and then a 2-shift daycare. That bottom left picture in the very bottom, what you see there where all those windows are, what they're proposing to do in this is build a 2-shift daycare, which Oshkosh presently doesn't have. And we know one of the barriers to housing and employment is childcare. One of the things I think that we are really excited about this project is that 2-shift daycare. It's going to bring something into our community that we don't currently have. This project has been approved by council. However, they are waiting to hear back on their tax credit applications through the state. Those are generally awarded in April, so hopefully in the next month or so here, we find out if this project is in go and can move forward. But we're excited for the possibility of this one. It's something that we haven't seen a lot of and could be a nice addition within kind of the housing stock of the city. I already talked about this slide, but I'm going to talk about it one more time. This is that affordability versus cost to buy or purchase homes. And the reason I want to talk about this now is the city is trying to get into some new initiatives in workforce housing. How can we help facilitate workforce housing in our community, especially because there is a price point and a market for new homes, but not $450,000 new homes. We know there are, when we talk workforce, that 80 to 120 range, that's a new teacher out of college. That's a fireman, that's a firefighter. There's a lot of people that fall within that workforce housing segment that would like to find newer housing in the city. So how do we help with that? So we went to council and we proposed a couple of different ways that we could help with infill workforce housing. There's privately owned things we can help with. There's, again, as we talked about, reducing the purchase cost with incentives. There's targeted redevelopment districts. So we went to a workshop with council and we pitched a bunch of ideas. And here are some of the ideas. The city could help pay for streets as part of our capital improvement plan, therefore reducing the cost of a new subdivision and houses. We could buy vacant lots in a subdivision that aren't selling and try to help market them and sell them back to developers at a lower cost. We could buy land and try to do our own subdivision and trying to reduce those costs to the end user. So ultimately, one of the directions we got from council was to dig in further. How could we do a workforce housing subdivision? How could we leverage city dollars and private dollars to build new houses but at a workforce level price instead of a market rate price? By the city getting involved, we can control that price of the home, making sure that we're not just giving money to a developer and now they make more money. We want to make sure that if the city does get involved, that lower price point is being reflected at the property owner level, not necessarily developer or builder. We want to make sure that cost is passed forward. So we spent a number of months evaluating options and how we could do that. Two options have presented themselves that we've been discussing with council and are moving forward on, at least further evaluating. The first of those is Washington School Site. If people are familiar with Washington School Site, Washington School is one of the schools that is set to close as part of the school district's consolidation plan. We worked with Oshkosh Area School District to help them send an RFP out for redevelopment of that building. They sent out that RFP for redevelopment and they got no proposals. The style of the building of Washington School is not suited for redevelopment. It's not like Smith School, which was redeveloped, or Cabrini School, or a lot of the other schools where the style of the building you can convert to apartments. Washington School, the way it was constructed when it was, and there we go again, was developed in such a way that it can be really a school or nothing else, which is why they ultimately got no proposals. As part of that RFP process, the city went to some of the listening sessions that the school district did with the neighborhood. And one thing that we heard from the neighbors was they want to make sure whatever goes on that site is compatible with their neighborhood. And the one that resoundingly came up is, why don't we just put more houses there? So that's what we're presently proposing to do. The city is looking to partner with Habitat with Humanity and buy Washington School, demo the building using funds available to the city through some of our block grant activities and other things, and essentially develop 18 to 19 shovel-ready infill lots. By the city getting involved, and kind of here's some images of where it is and what we're roughly looking at doing. By the city getting involved in buying it and working with Habitat, the kind of prevailing thought is Habitat would have about half the lots in the subdivision, the city would have the other half. We can spend city resources, to develop the subdivision, put the infrastructure and the stormwater management, all those things that have to be done, and then we can control making sure that whatever is built there, whether we do a master developer agreement with a builder, sell to individual builders, the goal is to ensure that the houses built and they're built for that $300,000 or less range, so that affordability is passed directly to the neighborhood. When we looked at this neighborhood, we did an evaluation of it. Outside of a couple of homes immediately west of Washington School, it's all owner-occupied housing. There's not a lot of rentals in this area, so we were encouraged by the ability of how do we put more owner-occupied, appropriate housing into that. School district is still considering the offer from the city. Council still has to weigh in and ultimately approve the purchase of the school. Habitat for Humanity will have to approve the purchase, and the developers agreement will do with them. But we're kind of dipping our toes into like, how do we get into workforce housing that can be appropriate for our neighborhoods? So this is an opportunity that presented itself. The city staff is really excited about this, hoping we can find a way to make this work and get some new homes built in that neighborhood. Just some examples of what are workforce houses. We've been looking and talking to different developers and builders and trying to find out what are some options that could be built within that price range. You know, we're looking at probably about 1,200 square foot homes. These are ranch. I'm just showing rough examples. One of the great things with the Washington School site is it will work really well as a test case for our infill housing design book we're doing, because that neighborhood is a lot of two-story type houses. So we can use that housing design book to help facilitate housing within that neighborhood. But these are examples of, I mean, they're smaller homes. They're not as big as what kind of the typical market rate stuff being built today is. A second opportunity the city is evaluating is on the end of Farmington Avenue. This is kind of the north end of the city. There's a kind of a dead-end street, Farmington Avenue, that just ends in a residential parcel. That parcel has been proposed for development a few times over the last handful of years. Everything from multifamily apartments, which didn't fit well with the neighbors, to single-family residential that the developer couldn't get to work out. So the city, similar to Washington School, is saying, okay, this area is an area of the city that has some potential. How could we facilitate that same thing, that workforce housing, $300,000 or less, into this neighborhood? Right now, kind of our thought is you could extend that street, end it in a cul-de-sac, put a stub street down, because there's actually more property south of this that could be the same thing, could be done with. So right now we're in the process of evaluating, could this be another potential workforce housing project that the city could get involved with? This one is a little bit, kind of behind the concept of where Washington is. Washington has been fleshed out a little bit more, and we have a better idea of how we can make that work. But this is another potential of way the city could get involved and help facilitate housing. That's my presentation.
That was quicker than I thought it would be.
I was talking as fast as
That was very good. We appreciate that. As far as any questions, committee questions?
We appreciate Mark filling in. We unfortunately had to reschedule because our other speaker was unable to make it, so we appreciate the last minute fill in.
We're happy to come and talk about housing. It's probably the number one thing we work on these days is how do we help with housing.
Okay. I appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Everybody have a good day.
Thanks, Mark.
Next on our agenda is the discussion of the city sponsorship of the Juneteenth event. This year it will be held on June 8th. Last year was the first time the event was done at Leach. And there was a request again this year to have the same event at Leach, with a request that was made through City Manager Roloff. Unfortunately, he's not here today. I thought he was going to be here to discuss that sponsorship, but
I can speak a little to it.
what the sponsorship would entail is the city of Oshkosh sponsoring that event, which would also cover the insurance requirements that organizations would need to have in order to have their events there. And I did have an opportunity to speak briefly with city Manager Roloff about this. I think that this would support the mission and goals that the DEI committee has in bringing these types of events to our community. I would welcome any further discussion, and Michelle, if you have any additional information to provide, go right ahead.
I think very similar to yours, Lakeisha, is that what I think City Manager Roloff wanted to vet out with our committee is, do we support, similar to what the city did for the Dragon Boat Festival, basically providing the venue for free, and also which comes with that, insurance type coverage, sponsorship of the event, so.
Who is running the event outside of the city?
The
I
gentleman,
wasn't
I
involved in
believe,
that.
who approached City Manager Roloff, his name is Rodney, and I'm not sure I know his last name off the top of my head. He was involved with the event last year, as were several other people from the community. So I believe this would be similar to the event that was organized and executed last year with this gentleman, and again, I believe there were many other people involved.
Yeah, I think it's a perfect event for the city to host. I was just curious about who was behind it.
So I don't know if anyone else wants to weigh in, committee.
Marina?
I support the city sponsoring events like this, especially when the added costs, when these are newer events are there and you don't have as many sponsors as some of the long-term events that have been happening here in the city and that has some very large corporations behind it. I always think, especially for these events, that the city should support them, and one way that the city can show their support in having events, these cultural events, these events that are recommended by DEI, is by way of sponsoring, and that way the costs or the ability to raise funds for other costs is there. So I like that there's a way that the city would be able to provide support. And it doesn't necessarily have to come by way of a check or by money, but to alleviate some of the fundraising that could be, or that's usually involved in these types of events. So I support them.
Should we make a motion to support it, or did Mark just want a commentary on it?
What information I did receive from Mark is that he would support having DEI make a recommendation to council about sponsoring this event. So we would need a motion, a second, and a vote. To answer your question, the long-winded attorney. Sorry.
I move that we formally recommend to council the city's support of the Juneteenth event.
And a second.
Yeah, I'll second that.
And can we do a vote? Call.
Johnson,
Aye.
Yang,
Aye.
Hayes,
Aye.
Kanowski,
Aye.
Okay, so that shall pass. We'll make the recommendation to City Council for approval of the city sponsorship. Perfect. Next, we have up discussion of ARP applications. As most are aware, City Manager Roloff did attend one of the committee meetings discussing that there would be the reopening of applications for ARPA funds that are non-infrastructure funds. There was approximately $2 million or so remaining, and that application process was adjusted from previous times to ensure that there were more applicants made aware of the ARPA funds being available, that the application process was clear, and what the city of Oshkosh did, at least through City Manager Roloff, is let the application process be known through different avenues. So attending some of these meetings, there were also some public meetings that were held by Manager Roloff, and there were also some virtual meetings. So through that process, what the DEI committee did receive is 2 applications from community organizations that were submitted not only to DEI but also to City Manager Roloff for consideration in the providing ARPA funds. So today, while we will be discussing the 2 ARPA applications that we received, there has not been a determination by Manager Roloff on which organizations would receive the funds and how much. But I think it's important that the organizations that are here today, we have an opportunity to hear from them about their organization, what their ask was from the city, and what is always possible is for DEI to make that recommendation about organizations receiving those funds.
Okay.
So, first up we have Oshkosh Pride is here, and we will have Cora speaking on behalf of Oshkosh Pride, who will tell us about the organization, what the events are that are put on by Oshkosh Pride, and the ask of the city.
Yes, hello everyone. My name's Cora, she, her. I am a trans woman and I am a director for Oshkosh Pride. And Oshkosh Pride is here. We have Holly on the over there, Lucas, Kai, and TJ. And I just wanted to kind of give a little insight to Oshkosh Pride. We have a yearly event now that's been going on
since 2022 officially.
2022 officially. We started out in, I wasn't there, but
South Park in 2022.
South Park in 2022, and we've now moved to the Leach Amphitheater in 2023, and that's where we have our venue this June. It is a day event. It's mostly in the afternoon toward the evening, and we just invite everyone, Pride and those invested in being supportive of Pride and the neighborhoods to come out and celebrate. So I did write something down, so because I'm not really good on the fly, my neurodivergent brain, I will go off in tangents, and then you'll know everything about Star Wars, and that's not my goal. So to focus, Oshkosh Pride's mission is to give Oshkosh a more visible, loving, educational, and safe space for its LGBTQ two-spirit IA+ community. This is our home, and we want to keep calling it our home. Our educational focus is founded on nonviolent opportunities to expand visibility and accessibility to everyone so that they can live in pride of being themselves. This money not only serves us, but serves the local community by being invested in our local economy. One of our biggest supporters, for example, is 4imprint, and we look forward to investing in their Pride merchandise and reusable products for safe and individual use. One of our biggest favorite things last year, I bought 4 rolls of Pride stickers, and Lucas here, we were out of those in 5 minutes. Right. We have a whole community, especially LGBTQ youth, that just wanted to be seen and celebrated. We wish to express, in a COVID reality, the importance for a safe community space for our Pride members to gather, be visible, and without fear of their health being compromised. Isolation during the height of the pandemic took a detrimental toll on Pride individuals. And before the height of the pandemic, before COVID in November 2017, Oshkosh The Oshkosh Northwestern reported that Oshkosh ranked the lowest in the state by the Human Rights Campaign in relation to how accepting it was to the LGBTQ community.
That's terrible.
This is, look, if I may share a personal story, I actually moved here because my grandpa used to volunteer here at the EAA Air Show every year of his retired life, and he passed away in 2019 anyway. But I like calling this place home. I moved here a few years ago, and that saddens me a little bit to think that we're the lowest ranked. I want to improve that. I want my family here to help improve that. Anyway, the younger generations in our community already face harsh and hateful and fatal situations. These individuals deserve a space to grow, to be empowered, to learn that Oshkosh can continue to be a home for them. An invested pride community creates a fully invested future for Oshkosh, a secure place to call home. So thank you for your consideration. And if there are any more details and questions, I will defer to TJ here for any of the details in the applications. And thank you.
I just want to share something I just read. We talked about it, but it was different to see the numbers. According to the Trevor Project's 2022 National Survey on LGBTQ mental health for Wisconsin, 44% of LGBTQ youth in Wisconsin seriously considered suicide in the past year. Why that matters to me, sitting here, as a biracial, mentally ill adult, I don't fit in anywhere. I don't. I like to tell this joke. I went to prison, and I tell this joke all the time. When I showed up to prison, black people thought I was white. White people thought I was black. Mexicans thought I was Puerto Rican, and the Puerto Ricans just knew I wasn't. They just knew I wasn't. And it's funny, and I'm glad you laughed, but there's a lot of layers to that. There's a lot of layers to that. There's a lot of things that I started my adult life 10 years late, behind the curve because of my own choices. So to come here and see people that give a shit about something, even if it's not me, matters. Because all I wanted growing up was somebody to ask me how I felt. That's it. That's all I wanted. So I mean, that's why I am drawn to you guys. Whether we just met today or not.
Virtually
before. Following you. Can I tell you something? When I came here and I heard there was a black judge running, I was your fan. I was. Because where I was from, I was the only black kid. So you guys matter to me. What you're doing here matters. And this, in black and white, is real. Whether you believe it or not, it's real. And this matters to me. So thank you.
Thank you, Lucas, and thank you, Cora. And bouncing off what Lucas said, many folks know we went to the same high school in a small town that the only thing I knew for sure in my life was I wanted to get the hell out of there. I hated it there. I saw no queer representation there. And I look now at Oshkosh saying, how do we keep people from leaving our city? How do we keep people from moving out? 10 to 25% of people are LGBTQ plus identified now. They're not going to stay unless we support things like this. Otherwise, and I know because that was me. I was in a city that I didn't even hear that Milwaukee had a pride until, I got to UWO and toured the college and met some friends, and they're like, oh yeah, we go to Milwaukee Pride all the time. It's 2 hours away, and now Appleton is thankfully doing a pride. But Oshkosh is a big enough city. We have enough people. We have shown a proven track record of being able to recruit volunteers for this. Like everyone, the most difficult thing for us to recruit is funding, but that's why we're making an ask. We're doing all the legwork for free. We're giving hours and months and weeks and years of our lives now for free with passion that can't be bought. We will keep doing it, with no budget or a very small budget, but this would make a huge impact for decades in Oshkosh to become a place where folks come to Oshkosh for Oshkosh Pride.
And I feel like, as a group, if I gotta plead one more time, Hope Fridge, that I'm aware of, started as a conversation between the two of us.
Yeah.
After a decade of not seeing each other because we give a shit about each other. And then it's...
There we are, please. We are televised, and I don't know if Scott has to do anything about those words or not.
It started as an idea and it spread. Because I listened, because she listened, because you listened, because you listened. So why would we stop listening now? Just because we changed the subject. We're still asking for help. It's just a different thing that needs help.
Thank you.
very much, I appreciate
So,
that.
so what is the actual ask in your ARPA request?
Sure. So I have a couple copies to pass around. I have 4 extra, and you all can take and share.
4 committee members.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
I don't need one.
Oh,
I was trying to share here.
Yeah, so that's a copy of our ARPA application in detail. The funds requested, the totals on the front page there, $97,184. The annual budget is $6199, but the reason that ask is what it is if you flip, it's second from the last page, you'll see the bold numbers are the ARPA asks. So it starts with a two-way radio 6-pack. That is something we found would have been very helpful to have last year for the committee members to be able to communicate with each other at Leach, a two-way radio 6-pack. We then ask for reusable water bottles to invest in for imprint locally, like Cora mentioned. That would be for, the purchase would be made this year, and whatever isn't given away at this Pride would be given away at the next Pride, et cetera, as a way to reduce plastic water bottle usage and support local businesses. The big ask here is for audio equipment and lighting equipment. We have a skilled audio team and lighting team. Jasper is a representative of that and was not able to make it tonight, but they're one of our committee members. And in detail, I had Jasper send me the links because I'm not the expert when it comes to picking out AV equipment, but Jasper did a great job with what we had last year, but we ran into some audio challenges that were pretty significant and did impact the show repeatedly. So to kind of keep the energy high and the energy good, moving forward, and to be able to grow like we see ourselves growing for the next 10 to 15, 20 years, our ask is to invest in equipment for audio and lighting that will allow us to grow into, a Milwaukee Pride size, at some point. I don't think there's any other way that we could do that. So that's why we said, let's ask for what we really need and what we would be using annually. And that's listed out here with prices and links that folks can visit. Thank you for your consideration. And at the end there, I just want to remind folks, Oshkosh Pride exists to advance equity, which is the stated purpose of this ARPA plan. A stronger Oshkosh Pride, as we talked about, will create a stronger Oshkosh. And thank you for taking this opportunity to develop community partnerships and to invest in our LGBTQ community locally.
Thank you very much. Any other questions?
Sorry for swearing.
In all honesty, I feel like people understand that when we're talking about our community being attacked to the point where our youth, almost half of them consider killing themselves, strong language comes from strong emotions.
Right.
Mm-hmm. We understand that there's limitations that we are televised, but
Right.
I think everyone here
you.
understands that strong language comes from
enough.
strong emotions.
Thank you.
I do have another question. Having worked on the Dragon Boat Festival, I totally understand these costs and how they would be used. So I don't have a concern with that. But I did want to ask, because it is such a large amount for the audio equipment, would it be used for anything other than once a year?
Our goal and our mission is actually to expand Oshkosh Pride to monthly events.
Mm-hmm.
We do have a couple venues that are willing to host us, our goal, we don't just want once a year, because once a year for our LGBTQ youth who hold on to that for once a year, that's really tough. We want to expand into we're going to start out hopefully once every other month or once a quarter, and then eventually grow into once a month events. One of the ideas we've been talking about is a trans pop-up closet, and this is a pop-up closet where trans youth can get, because transition, let me tell you, it's expensive.
Yeah.
I didn't know all the things certain things were not in the brochure when I signed up. And I'm like, oh, okay. And there's things that make you euphoric, but I know especially the youth and a lot of people that struggle with money don't have access to this stuff right away. They don't have access to people to show them how to do makeup. Trust me, I've had like 6 girlfriends be like, girl, let me help you. They don't have access to this right away. There's trans people that want binders, that can't afford them, they can't afford the right ones. So one of those is I'd like to host those every couple of years, and also just space to entertain and celebrate. So yes, so a lot of that equipment will be used for that. Hopefully, a lot of the funding, if you'll allow it, will be used to make that happen and be accessible.
Yeah, the trans clothing closet was an idea that came in after we had sent in the application. So, and I'm new to all this stuff. I as you know, we have with Hope Fridge and Oshkosh Pride the most transparent funding of anyone in town with our open collective records that y'all can look at. But I think you meant to say like monthly. I know or like every other month, but what instead of yearly with that closet, right? Like we talked about that. I think the Gibson. I know we've been in discussion with them about hosting events there. They're on board. But I think the thing with them is you got to bring all your own stuff. Every time they have a band, that's my understanding. We don't have stuff. We have the talent. We have Jasper and the skill. And what we, last year what we did was we had to pay with funds that we had to go out and ask businesses, and then we paid a company to come in. And that's, if we can get rid of that annual recurring cost, that's one less variable, and then we can focus on event security, and then we can focus on, the other aspects of our event. Good question.
Any other questions? No? All right. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. You are free to stay for the rest of the meeting or free to go. And it's okay if you go. Okay. I just want to make sure I say that. It's okay if you go. It really is.
The housing guy left, so we can too.
Yeah. It's absolutely okay if you go. All right. Next up, we have SAPO. And to give us information about SAPO is Mouché Sabua, who will talk about the organization and their ask for ARPA funds.
Yes. Greetings to everybody.
Hi again.
It's good to be back and see everybody,
Mouché, also former DEI chair committee
Yeah, it's
member.
good to be back here and see Michelle across me there, like before, Well, I should say the decision to put our application through the DEI. Oh, sorry about that. Yeah. The decision to actually put our application through your committee came in 2 parts. First one was due to the resolution that was passed by City Council that applications should go through DEI. And the second thing is also the love and respect of this committee, of what you guys do and what we've done together over the years. You guys really do a wonderful job in our community. Yeah. Now, I might also go on a tangent of speaking a lot of things, so I have 3 things that I have on my cell phone here that I'm going to just read if I can. But first of all, I would like to say SAPO is the only black-led organization in Oshkosh that have been working on equity issues. I've been in existence since 2010. Some of you are aware of what we do, and I was hoping maybe you guys have had a chance to take a look at our application and also see just a quick snapshot of what we've been doing since 2010, whether it's advocating at the city level, or whether it's advocating at community level or at the school district. So there's just so many things that we do that I cannot really just tell you within these 5-10 minutes. So I have a few things here, just 4 things I have. Like I said, we've been around since 2010 doing this work. Why are we asking for this funding? We believe, or we know, it's going to allow us to scale up in some of our programs. So the funding that we are asking for is to help us find space, okay, is to get space, and also, help us boost in the program that we do. For example, currently right now, to allow us to expand our reading and mentoring programs, as well as racial equity work that we do in the city of Oshkosh. The need for space. Why do we need this space? Is for black and brown folks. It's a space where, when I say black and brown folks, a space where people can come in without going through hardship of navigating that space, because it's going to be a space where there's no obstacles, a space where folks feel like they're welcome, not being judged, and currently we do not have that space in town. Now, the argument out there would be like, yeah, we have so much spaces in town where folks are free to come in and get help. We do have those spaces, but we have to understand, like, some of these spaces were like institutions that were built deliberately not to allow certain people to easily come in, So with our work over the last 10 years, we found out, like, people, when they come in to our space, they're actually comfortable coming in and also to speak of what they need. That comes in because of so many years of hard work, like building relationships with these folks. I can tell some of these folks have been in their homes, or we've been to their homes when they're pregnant. We've seen their children born, and we've seen their children grow from being babies all the way through high school. So we have these solid relationships and trust among that community. Let's see another one here. So that space also, like I said, to allow us navigate alongside our people, black and brown people in this community. It's a space where we not going to save people's lives, but it's a space where we believe that we work together as we build our community. I had all these little things that I've written up here, not a lot, but if you guys have access to that copy, I would like you guys to take a look at it and go through it. So briefly, this is a snapshot of what we do. But I want to say a little something that we've been involved with right now. This is kind of like some charts. I'll just throw it all over the place. Okay. I wish I had copies for everybody.
I've seen it all on
You've seen it all?
Facebook, so
Okay.
I'm good. I don't know if they have, but I know what you're working on.
Yeah,
so
so
share it that way.
Good. I want to talk a little bit about our mentoring program and reading program that we've been involved in the last 6-8 months. Research says that a child by the 3rd grade, a child should learn how to read, right? Okay? After 3rd grade, maybe 4th grade, 5, 6, 7, a child should read to learn. You get that point? First step is to learn how to read. Then the second step is to read to learn. Okay? So the current affairs, the current situation in the city of Oshkosh, not only this year, but years before this year, for the last 10 years, we've been advocating this, looking at these numbers, is students year after year in Oshkosh get to graduate, but they can't read because they missed the 3rd grade level where they didn't latch onto that. So meaning the teachers moving forward at grade 5, grade 6, those teachers are not equipped to teach the reading, right? So they will just teach science and other things. So students are left behind. There are so many other variables that I would like to share with you that causes that, but I think this is not the right forum to talk about like the little details on how these kids fell behind. But the current situation right now in Oshkosh, from 2016 to where we are today, I can safely say you have like maybe about 60% of our students are at proficient levels. in reading and literacy. And if you break down those numbers down into race, you're going to find out only maybe like 90% of black and brown kids are graduating every year without reading. So SEPO decided to look into these numbers carefully over the years. But when you look at numbers, you don't feel like an attachment to a number because it's just a statistic. You know, you don't feel attached to it. But until some of those families and students approached SEPO and said, hey, we need help. We really need help in figuring out how you can help us read. So we embarked on a program of the literacy program. But before we decided to start on it, we started collecting the data from the students. Those who were like open, because it's not easy to come up in the open and say I can't read.
Right, particularly for kids.
Yeah, it's
Actually, any
like,
age, but
you can't do
kids
it.
are
You see,
fine
it's not easy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the first instance, yes, I had so many kids who came in and say, hey, I can't read. But when we were ready to start up the program, we found out the stigma hit us. Suddenly you had, let's say, 40 students who came in, and now you have like 15 or 20. But what I'm telling you is this. These kids are in high school. Some of them are graduating exactly in May, a couple of weeks from now. I don't know how many weeks are remaining. These kids are in grade 12. They are graduating, they can't read. The system has failed them. And when I mean the system, I'm not only talking about the guys at school district. I mean all of us at the city level, at the community level. We have failed these students year after year. So when we started our program, we took these kids, looked at their reading scores, where they're at. Some of these kids are in 10th grade, 11th grade, and 12th grade. And majority of them, they were reading at 3rd grade level. So if you're at a 3rd grade level and you're graduating this May, is there any college that you want to go to? There's no college. There's nowhere you're going, right? So our focus has been like, we can give them something within a shortest period of time. We can give them an ability to be able to read certain paragraphs so that at least when they graduate in May, those who are graduating in May, they can go and pick up an application form, fill it up, or read it, or understand the contract, at least for those. But as we try to scale up our program, we are going to be targeting those who did not latch at 3rd grade level, 4th grade level, and move forward with them. But that's just the reading program for the young people. But we also have an adult problem also. You would think like adults are able to read in Oshkosh. You'd be shocked. I've met so many men and women who have come to say, hey, we like what we see, we want to do it. And that brought us to the space issue. The space becomes now a problem because currently we had good people like me over here offering the Hmong Center for us to use. Boys and girls, the YMs, Downtown Y also offered space for us to use. So we looked at, after speaking with Mei Yang, she kind of spoke to me how the building they have, it was not like fully to code in terms of if you had somebody on a wheelchair, it could be a little bit difficult to get in because we want a space that is able to accommodate everybody to come in. So the YMCA currently gave us that opportunity to run our program there. We've been running it, but also that's an institution also of barrier. It's not able to accommodate everybody. So SEPO is seeking that 350 grant to help us get that space. It's going to be a communal space, like I said, that we are going to collaborate with other organizations. And I liked when I heard TJ and I heard them say that audio equipment. That's audio equipment that I think SEPO would use if you guys buy it.
Absolutely.
I love that thing. Yeah. So you guys, if you have questions for me, you can throw me questions, and please take a look at that application carefully, and you see a lot of stuff that we do.
I think one thing you forgot to say was all of the people teaching the kids in the literacy program are black and brown themselves. They didn't bring in people like me who's what the kids see in the school system day in and day out. It's
good. I can add up on that. We deliberately decided to do that because when a child has missed the reading part at 3rd grade level. Moving forward, that kid is left aside, right? And maybe there's no encouragement for the kids to, like, you can do it, there's no encouragement. So throughout our mentoring program, we thought about it deeply and thought about, like, when you do this right, we need to get people who look like these students. And what I saw was with Dr. Sean Robinson and other few black folks was we've never looked at these kids like they cannot do it. No, we challenge them. We always challenge them and encourage them. They can do it. And what we saw in a few weeks is the kid who could not read, we could see them start reading, you know, because we believed in them. And also, not only those kids, but the whole community came together. You know, families brought food to feed these students every evening. So we can do this together, the community. It's not something that we can do alone. And the upper funds, I really know that if those funds, should they be given to SEPO, it's going to boost us. It's going to boost the city, because guess what? At the end of the day, these students are the future of this city. You know, if we love this city right now, we need to invest in these children. You know, they are your kids, they're my kids. You know, they're our kids. So it's an investment that will pay off when we are old. We'll be seeing those guys as city council, men and women. We'll be seeing them on a DEI probably we'll be seeing them as judges too. So, so my ask to my colleagues here, my former colleagues at DEI, is look at the work that we do, and we need you guys to support us in the way that you can. Yeah.
Thank you. Michelle, any other questions? No other questions? Perfect. All right. Well, I really do appreciate you coming and speaking about SAFE's work. I also appreciate Pride coming. I think for complete transparency, it's necessary for me to say that I am involved with Hope Fridge as well as SAFO. Both being organizations that I 100% support, organizations that I think are doing, not that I think, but I know are doing great work in our community, and oftentimes the first at doing this work. And the inclusivity that we so want Oshkosh to have, this inviting, welcoming city where people are really clawing their ways to get into our city. These are things that need to be in place. And so I think it's important that we continue to support, promote, attend, volunteer, give our sweat equity, give all of those things to organizations that really do make people want to grow roots here like I did and stay, instead of having a mass exodus like we see in many cities because of that lack of belonging. So, yeah. All right.
Thank you.
With that being said, our next thing is the committee member roundtable.
Wait, do you want a motion to support or recommend these to Mark and/or council for support?
Yes.
So
that's the right question. Yes.
So in speaking with Michelle prior to the start of the meeting, there was the question of, well, what about the other organizations that did not submit their applications through DEI, through the DEI committee, which Michelle can state her position regarding that. My position is that when the decision was made by the City of Oshkosh Common Council as to factors that would be considered and the steps that should be taken, the way that I read that is that DEI should be able to weigh in on it. I still feel that way, that DEI should still be able to weigh in on it. As I discussed prior to this starting, City Manager Roloff has not, as far as I'm aware, made any decisions or final decisions regarding the 50 or so applications that were received. I believe that because the decisions that are made through the city should always be through that DEI lens, that we should always be able to say on those. And what I cannot control as not only the chair of DEI, but the city council liaison for DEI, is how the others choose to have DEI be a prominent, well-used, almost overused at this point, committee, besides continue to advocate as such. So that is my position, that we have every right to suggest them. If more want to present, they can. However, these are the two that we received.
Right.
And in compliance with the council members' decisions on how that should be determined, I think we are in compliance. I understand that the city has a different take on that. So, any discussion about that? What I just
Can I top up a little bit? That's why I think as SEPO we looked at the resolution, like I said in the beginning, like City Council had decided to come through DEI, and like I said, this committee has done a lot of work and it continues to do a lot of work, and respectfully, I think it was in order for us to come in through this committee and share with you guys, because that's the only platform we could have, who knows, maybe 2-3 minutes on that television at home. So if others would given a similar opportunity, I think it's really good, because other than this platform, people would not know why they're asking for what amount, Yeah.
And I believe it's under our purview to give recommendation. It is our purview to give recommendations to the city. Anybody can come and ask us to look at an issue, and they have. So I would like to make a motion that we recommend both of these for support by the city.
Any second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion now that we have a second on the table? All right, no discussion. I'd ask that a vote be taken.
Johnson,
Aye.
Yang,
Aye.
Hayes,
Present.
Kanowski,
Aye.
And just to be clear, why I am voting present on both of these matters is because I'm involved, as I said, being transparent. Also, these matters would come before City Council. I would, if they can't come before City Council, although I would not be on City Council at the time that this would come on their agenda, I would still have to recuse myself from that vote as well. All right, thank you, Andrea, I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, so the recommendation, with that vote, there will be a recommendation to City Manager Roloff for each of the organizations to receive ARPA funding as requested. Okay, now we will move on to the committee member roundtable, sharing DEI related activities and events in the area. If anyone has any.
One for me. What do you have, Lakeisha?
I forgot. No, I just kind of along the list of things that I was doing, I completely forgot to have this. But one thing that I do think that we know is coming up would be the Pride event coming up. We did discuss,
When will that be?
Yes.
I would love an opportunity to share some further transparency and info on that, because we're experiencing challenges this year that we learned about as we were filling, after we had completed the form, and I think on the day or near the day that we submitted the form for the ARPA application. So all that's to say, we need help this year with Oshkosh Pride more than ever. It's the 29th of June. It is at Leach Amphitheater. We have booked the venue. We have event insurance that, like last year, is through our fiscal host, Open Collective Foundation. Open Collective Foundation was the fiscal host and is the fiscal host currently for Hope Fridge. Oshkosh Pride is a project of Hope Fridge, so that's how both had been enjoying 501c3 status and still do through the end of 2024. We learned in March that March 15th was the last day that Oshkosh Pride and Hope Fridge could collect incoming donations. We still can spend them. So what's currently happening is two things. Cora is leading the charge on our bylaws that we are approving at tonight's Oshkosh Pride meeting for our own 501c3. Yay! So we'll then be opening up our own bank account that hopefully is in 2 to 4 to 6, 8 weeks. We're going to expedite it as fast as we can. But that kind of puts us in a pinch because we can't, all that's to say, let me get back on track. Knowing we were in a pinch, I reached out to Alicia Weiner of the Christine Ann Center, and thankfully, she's the executive director. She took my call. She got back to me today, and we'll be meeting with her accountant tomorrow. And the reason was we asked if this, motion is approved and we get the funding we requested back when we thought we had a bank account to put it in. If Mark Roloff or the city is not able to hold that check for us until we have a bank account, hopefully in April or May, as Oshkosh Pride. That Christine Ann Center could hold it for us, and they are open to discussing that. So I wanted to share that we are working on it. But I also wanted to be transparent about those challenges because none of us thought that was going to happen, but here we are. They fiscally hosted 600 orgs like ours, and all of them are scrambling. We all had very little notice. They just disclosed they didn't feel it was a sustainable business model, so they had to stop hosting, and it's a bummer. It helped a lot of people for a very long time, but it's also a motivation for us to have Hope Fridge because it's become its own 501c3 after we focus on Oshkosh Pride, because Oshkosh Pride has a deadline of an event coming up. So that's why we're focusing on that first.
I also want to back that up and say that despite our fiscal challenges, we will still be at the Leach Amphitheater this
yes,
year. And
absolutely.
This event will still happen because, if anything else, we're resilient about joy. So
absolutely.
About my joy. So that's gonna. Plus, we're, even if some of us I don't mind buying $100 worth of Pride stickers, because the look on their faces.
You guys, it
was fantastic. It was joy. It was them celebrating it. Them being celebrated, and that is just something that I would love to see more often. And again, like you some of you were asking, is it just going to be once a year? No, because I want to see monthly queer joy in Oshkosh.
Yes. And this 501c3.
Sorry.
Oh, you go ahead.
So June 20, I just want to make sure
I am so sorry.
June 29th starting at what time?
Oh, yes, June 29th from memory, because we shortened it this year.
2 to 7.
2 to 7. Thank you so much. 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the Leach Amphitheater in Oshkosh. We've booked and paid for the venue, and now we're working on everything else. So.
As far as volunteers,
yes.
How would one go about volunteering?
Yes. As you can imagine, 110% of our capacity has been spent on writing 501c3 bylaws as fast as humanly possible. So as soon as that is done, it's been wild, guys.
So what?
Oh,
but
wow.
all that is to say,
It was
usually
emotional labor for me because I'm a nerd.
last year things were a lot more smooth. We didn't have the randomness.
Yes.
Thank you.
Website?
I'm a mess. It's info@hopefridge.com. You can still email us for volunteering. Oshkosh Pride, for volunteer opportunities, I would just message Oshkosh Pride Facebook page, because then we all have it in one spot. So please, if you can volunteer, if you'd like to make a fiscal donation and you'd like to let us know that you're willing to write a check as soon as we're ready to take a check, but you're willing to hold it, that would be helpful, because right now we can't even solicit donations that we, like last year, we really needed. And so we're behind because of the fiscal sponsorship fallout.
Okay.
Thank you all very much.
Can I say something, Keisha?
Oh, yes.
I think you forgot. You weren't supposed to say it, actually. So last year, I think around April, we had a racial equity and advocacy and leadership family gathering at Boys and Girls. So we're going to have it again this year in May, May 4th. The time I think Keisha is going to communicate the time. So
I sure am.
yeah, the details.
Of course
Yeah,
I am.
yeah, the details. The time will be. So, but basically, what it is families come, children, adults come in, and like last year, what we had a live music, a live band. There's a gentleman from Fan Black who came in and played drums and guitars, and the kids are having a good time. We had face paintings. We had some lady who was doing some hair, and there was a lot of food. The whole event really was for families to come in and mingle and talk and know each other. All kids are having a good time, whether it's at the gym, inside the gym, or whatever it was. So I would like people out there to be on the lookout for that event. It's an event where the community comes together. No strings attached. Just come in. There's going to be food and fun.
Yes,
Yes.
invite everyone.
Just invite everybody.
Both of the events.
Both of the events, yeah.
Very good events. Invite everyone. Show up. Show up for your community.
Also, for those who don't know, we have a City of Oshkosh DEI Facebook page, and if anybody wants to follow that, we do post any events that we become aware of. I know a few days ago we posted the UWGB Pride Center is hosting a Two-Spirit Love is Community with Dr. Roger Kuhn on May 1st from 4:30 to 6:30. That's up at UW Green Bay. But we post things throughout the area. So number one, feel free to share them with us because we definitely will post them. And if you want to see events that are going on around the area, it's a great Facebook page to follow as well. Thank you. Thank you for my commercial.
Thank you.
Any other events, things going on? No? Okay. Next on the agenda would be any outstanding items. The rolling one is the council's agenda.
Yep, I usually just, things that are upcoming for council. I printed it out. It's hard to read.
I was wondering how you could read that. It's like in 8.5.
This is how it printed off the website, so please bear with me. It looks like there will be of course, the annual organizational meeting will occur on April 16th at noon for the council. As obviously the elections for council members are coming up in April. So unfortunately, Ms. Hayes is not running again,
But I will be at those meetings often, I'm sure.
So that's the only upcoming thing I have that I know about for council at this time.
The other item that has continued to be on the council agenda is the mayor name change to president, and the deputy mayor name change to vice president. So that has continued to be on our agenda. So, all right. Any future agenda items anyone would like to be placed on our agenda? I think in the possibility, if there's a possibility that other organizations would like to present on their ARPA application, we should have that on our agenda so that it doesn't, at least until the applications are reviewed and the funds are kind of allocated, that it'd be nice to just have that on there in case there is someone that comes and we don't have to amend it multiple times. Any other agenda items?
And if anyone, again, decides on any in the next few weeks, please reach out to me and Lakeisha to add those. And then I was going to say something else that I don't remember right now.
Interest in being on the committee kind of thing? No?
Well, right now all the seats are full at this moment in time. But certainly, anyone who's interested in applying for DEI or any of our boards and commissions throughout the city certainly should put their applications in through the city website. I don't remember the exact path off the top of my head, but if you go under the boards and commissions area, there is an application.
All right. If nothing further, I'll take a motion and a second to adjourn.
Sorry. I'm asking you to, I've recommended you make the motion, Marina.
You can just say so moved. If you want to adjourn. If you don't want to adjourn. Watch out. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, it's my second meeting. I'm still
No, yeah,
getting
it's-
used to it.
So when I just said I'll take a second
don't
and a
have long
motion to
arms.
adjourn, you can say I move to adjourn, or you can just say so moved.
So moved.
And a second?
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everyone.